Natalie Ross had a knack for saying too much. Everyone knew it. Her quicksilver wit, the kind that could turn a dull meeting into comedy hour, but also the kind that could drop her into hot water before she realized it was boiling. That morning was already a circus, a paper stack teetering in her left arm, her phone pinned between her shoulder and her cheek, a coffee cup steaming dangerously in her right hand. She was juggling it all while firing off a voice note to her best friends, her tone sharp with irritation, playful with sarcasm. Seriously, I can't take Owen anymore. That man is like a Greek god in a suit. Way too handsome, but also the most arrogant and unbearable person on the planet. He's like a hot corporate dictator. She laughed at her own exaggeration and tapped send. The laugh died instantly when the office went silent around her. 100 heads rose at once. She looked at her phone. The glowing screen mocked her. Message sent to Global Team Group. Not the best friends chat, not the 3 women who would laugh and tease. Hundreds of eyes, the CEO, the boss himself. Someone stifled a laugh behind his hand. Another coughed hard, nearly choking on his latte. And then the worst sound of all, an alert. Owen Carter, listened to your voice message. Natalie's stomach twisted, a flood of ice-cold dread washing through her veins. Her breath snagged. No, this couldn't be happening. She wanted to throw the phone across the room, to undo, rewind, anything but this reality. She whispered a panicked, no, to herself, as the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Not just footsteps, measured, crisp, deliberate, polished shoes against marble tile, the kind of rhythm that made people stand straighter, tuck in their shirts, stop mid-sentence. And then he appeared. Owen Carter, immaculate, a suit that looked as if it had been carved onto him, dark eyes like steel catching the morning light. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. The authority rolled off him in waves. Miss Ross, he said in a voice so steady it rattled her more than if he had yelled. We need to talk. Now. The office held its breath as Natalie followed him. Every step felt like a march to her own execution. Inside his glass-walled office, Manhattan's skyline glittered behind him like a backdrop for her downfall. She stammered, words tumbling out of her mouth before she could even shape them. Mr. Carter, that was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean... He raised one eyebrow, cool, almost amused. Hot corporate dictator? Is that how you see me? Her cheeks burned. She wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. But Owen didn't rage. He didn't fire her on the spot. Instead, he stepped closer, his gaze locked onto hers, sharp but unreadable. There are many ways I could handle this situation. I could fire you today. He let the words hang in the air, heavy, cutting through her already fragile breath. Then, slowly, the corner of his mouth shifted into the faintest trace of a smile. But I prefer another solution. Natalie blinked, unable to believe her ears. Another solution? You'll be working directly with me. Every report, every presentation, every meeting. From now on, you'll be by my side. His voice didn't waver. It carried an unshakable authority. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Was this punishment? A twisted kind of leash? Or something else entirely? She didn't know which possibility terrified her more. Consider it, Owen said smoothly, as though the decision was already made. A re-education. Natalie's heart thudded wildly. She walked out of his office, every eye in the room stabbing her with curiosity and speculation. She hadn't been fired. That should have been a relief. But the way he looked at her, the half-smile, the unreadable C-stewart, it sent a shiver through her bones. It wasn't anger she saw in him. It was something else. Something sharper, quieter, and infinitely more dangerous. And as she sat back at her desk, pretending to focus while whispers buzzed around her, one thought refused to leave her mind. Owen Carter wasn't mad. No, he was enjoying this. And that smile of his? It was the beginning of a game she wasn't sure she knew how to play. The next morning, Natalie swore she would act normal, pretend the whole humiliating disaster never happened. She arrived early, coffee in hand, hair neatly tied, lips stretched into her practiced smile. If she played it cool, maybe the ground would stop shifting under her feet. Maybe Owen Carter would forget, but she didn't believe that for a second. The office hummed with its usual chorus of keyboards and muted phone calls. Natalie forced herself to focus on her screen, to look calm, untouchable. And then she felt it, before she even saw him. The sharp change in atmosphere, like the temperature dropping just slightly. Owen Carter's presence. Good morning, Natalie. His voice slid behind her, low, calm, precise. She jumped so hard she almost spilled her coffee. He was standing right at her desk, close enough that she caught a trace of expensive cologne, something dark and smooth. You're quiet these days, she stammered, pretending to be annoyed rather than rattled. It's one of my many talents, he replied, not a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Then, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, he pulled out the chair beside her and sat down, the CEO of the company, at her desk, sitting like he had every right to be there. Natalie blinked. May I ask why you're here? Direct supervision, he said simply. Remember our conversation yesterday? Every report, every meeting, together. He leaned over her computer screen, pointing to the top corner. And by the way, that staple is C. Rooked. She stared at him, incredulous. Seriously? You're checking my staples now? Details matter, Owen replied smoothly. Just like posture. Straighten your back, Miss Ross. Slouching undermines authority. She sat up straighter before realizing what she had done, her irritation sparking. Don't you have anything else to do, like, I don't know, run a company? He gave her a faint smile, the kind that wasn't really a smile at all, but something more dangerous. Running a company includes ensuring employees are aligned. Speaking of alignment, I'll see you in the meeting room at 3. We'll discuss operational efficiency. Natalie frowned. Operational efficiency? I'm in marketing. You work wherever I say now. He stood, smoothing his suit as though the matter were settled. Then he glanced back at her, the faintest glimmer of something sharp in his eyes. Oh, and congratulations on your vocal boldness yesterday. Very enlightening. The urge to hurl a paperclip at the back of his perfect head nearly consumed her. At 3, she found herself waiting in the meeting room, nerves buzzing like electricity. 5 minutes late, Owen entered, folder in hand, expression unreadable. He sat across from her, every gesture precise, like a man who had never rushed a thing in his life. So, he said, flipping open the folder, how are you adjusting to this new arrangement? Wonderfully, Natalie shot back, voice dripping with sarcasm. I love being micromanaged by someone who critiques paperclips. His lips curved faintly. I see your humor is still intact. It's a natural gift. He studied her for a moment, then asked casually, tell me, do you still think I'm arrogant? Or have I graduated into charmingly unbearable? Natalie blinked. Was he really quoting her voice note? She tilted her head, pretending to think seriously. You've definitely reached a new level. Arrogant, unbearable, charming, and intrusive. It's practically a talent. He raised one brow. Intrusive? You literally appear behind me like some well-dressed ghost, she fired back. Honestly, you need a bell around your neck. Maybe a town crier. Hear ye, the CEO is coming. For the first time, Owen's composure cracked. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. You have quite the imagination, he murmured. Thank you. I have other qualities too, in case you're interested in discovering them. For a beat, silence stretched between them. Something unspoken charged the air. Then Owen leaned back in his chair. Coffee? He asked suddenly. Natalie blinked. Now? Yes, now. In the break room, she poured coffee into 2 mugs, painfully aware of his gaze on her every move. Don't you have anything better to do? She muttered. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, he said evenly, which is getting to know you better. The spoon stopped mid-stir. Her heart skipped. Get to know me better? After I called you arrogant and unbearable? You said some very honest things. I appreciate honesty. I want more of it. Natalie laughed, half nervous, half amused. Careful what you wish for, Mr. Carter. My honesty can be dangerous. I'm willing to take that risk. Their fingers brushed as she handed him the cup. A spark shot up her arm. She nearly dropped the mug. Back at the table, the tension only sharpened. Their banter twisted into something else, something sharper, more intimate. A duel where each jab drew them closer instead of pushing them apart. And for the first time, Natalie saw the faintest crack in his armor, a flash of humor, a shadow of something softer behind the steel. But beneath it all, one truth beat. Louder than the rest. He wasn't just testing her. He was enjoying this. He was enjoying her. And Natalie, against every shred of reason she had, was beginning to realize she might enjoy him too. By the time the Portland trip came, Natalie had already made up her mind. She was going to survive Owen Carter's strange punishment with her head held high. She was not going to be flustered by his hovering, his dry critiques, or the way he seemed to appear out of nowhere like a ghost in an Armani suit. She repeated that mantra to herself like armor as they boarded the flight together. But mantras are flimsy things when faced with storms. The meeting with the investors had gone better than anyone expected. Owen, flawless in his presentation, had impressed the room, Natalie, sitting beside him, had held her own, answering questions with wit and surprising authority. For one dangerous moment, she thought she saw approval flicker in his eyes, like he'd underestimated her and liked being wrong. That spark should have felt like victory. Instead, it unnerved her. At the airport, reality hit them like a sucker punch. Every board on every screen spelled disaster. Canceled. Thunder rolled somewhere in the distance. The airline employee's tired voice confirmed it. All flights east have been grounded until tomorrow. Natalie glanced at Owen. For the first time since she'd known him, his immaculate control faltered. He ran a hand through his hair, mussing it, and muttered something under his breath that definitely wasn't in his usual CEO vocabulary. It made him look almost human, almost reachable. 2 hours later, they ended up at the last hotel in Portland with vacancies. The receptionist slid over one key and said cheerfully, "1 room, 2 beds, that's all we've got." Natalie's heart dropped. She felt Owen's gaze shift toward her, unreadable, but something flickered in the silence between them. In the elevator, the tension was unbearable. She tried to break it. "Relax," she said lightly. "I promise I won't attack you in the middle of the night. I'll keep my hands to myself." He looked at her with that steady gaze. "That's not what I'm worried about." Her stomach flipped. "Then what?" He hesitated, then deadpanned. "Do you snore?" She burst out laughing. The sound echoed in the elevator, wild and unrestrained, and for once, he didn't scold her for being inappropriate. He just stared at her, lips twitching like he was fighting something dangerous, something close to a smile. The room itself was small, modest, 2 twin beds separated by a single nightstand. Owen stood in the doorway like he'd been dropped into an alien planet. Not exactly 5-star accommodations. "Oh, come on," she teased, tossing her bag onto a bed. "Where's your sense of adventure?" "Probably left it on the private jet we didn't take." Natalie grinned, already rifling through her bag. "I'm going to grab some snacks. Do you want anything?" His brow furrowed. "Snacks?" "Yeah, chips, soda, junk food. Welcome to the real world, Mr. Carter." She winked and slipped out before he could argue. When she returned 20 minutes later with arms full of bags, she found him exactly where she'd left him, sitting stiffly on the bed in his perfectly pressed suit, staring at the TV remote like it was a foreign object. "You didn't change?" she asked incredulously. "I didn't bring casual clothes?" "Of course you didn't." She shook her head and pulled out a bag of chips, a bottle of soda, and microwave popcorn. "Well, you're in luck. I brought tradition. Strange hotel nights require popcorn. It's the law." He watched her kick off her heels, rummage for pajamas, and disappear into the bathroom. When she came out, she was wearing pink unicorn pajama bottoms and a t-shirt that read, "Not a morning person." Owen stared. He actually stared. "Don't say a word," she warned, pointing a finger. "I wasn't going to." "Liar, you're laughing on the inside." "Maybe a little." "Ha, I knew it. And at least I packed pajamas. You're not seriously going to sleep in a suit, are you?" Owen looked down at himself as if noticing his attire for the first time. "I didn't bring anything else." "Who travels without pajamas?" "People who stay in hotels with silk robes." Natalie rolled her eyes. "At least lose the jacket and tie. You look like you're about to negotiate with God." To her surprise, he obeyed. Jacket off, tie loosened, shirt sleeves rolled. For the first time, he looked less like an untouchable CEO and more like a man. And damn it, he was even more attractive like that. They sat cross-legged on their beds, sharing chips. Owen examined his like a scientist studying a specimen before finally taking a bite. "Not terrible," he admitted. "High praise from you," she teased. They turned on the TV, flipping through until Natalie landed on a cheesy romantic comedy. Owen protested, of course, muttering about frivolity and wasted time. But 10 minutes in, she caught him smirking at a dumb joke. And then something shifted. The more they talked, the more layers slipped. He confessed he'd once broken a window playing soccer in his living room as a kid. She admitted humor had always been her shield since her parents' divorce. For a moment, the CEO and the employee disappeared. It was just 2 people, both hiding their cracks in different ways, both letting the cracks show. The tension between them thickened, dangerous and magnetic. When she went to grab ice, she bumped into him, sending cubes scattering across his chest. For one breathless second, they froze, laughter bubbling. Up until she, reckless, unthinking, tossed a cube at him. He blinked. "You didn't." "I did." Minutes later, the room was a battlefield of melting ice, their laughter breathless, uncontrolled. They collapsed against opposite beds, dripping and red-faced. And when the laughter faded, they were close, too close. His hand brushed her cheek, her breath caught. And then the fire alarm screamed. Smoke curled out of the microwave where she had forgotten the popcorn. Chaos, alarms, burnt kernels. And in that absurdity, the almost kiss dissolved into frantic towel waving and curses. Later, lying in her bed in the dark, Natalie stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. She had seen something in him tonight, a spark, a crack in the armor, and she wasn't sure if that scared her more than it thrilled her. The office was quieter than usual, but not the peaceful kind of quiet. It was that tense, heavy silence that meant everyone was waiting for something to happen. Natalie could feel it pressing down on her chest as she slid into her chair Monday morning, trying to pretend her weekend hadn't been haunted by what almost happened in Portland. Almost. The word gnawed at her like a secret no one else could see. And yet, there was Owen, cold, detached, back to his immaculate armor. He swept through the office like nothing had happened. No laughter, no ice cubes, no almost kiss broken by fire alarms. Just Owen Carter, the fortress in an expensive suit. He barely looked at her. At first, Natalie thought she'd imagined it all. Maybe the storm, the hotel, the burned popcorn. Maybe it had been some fever dream conjured by her overactive imagination. But then, she saw it. Every now and then, when he thought no one was watching, his gaze cut toward her. Brief, sharp, burning, and then gone. Like a flash of lightning, but enough to make her stomach twist. The push and pull of it was unbearable. By Tuesday, she was restless, spiraling, and then Chase Williams showed up. The new intern was a golden retriever in human form, 25, sun-bleached hair, surfer's grin, the kind of guy who'd offer you his last donut without thinking twice. He leaned on her desk with a brightness that cut through the frost in the office. "You must be Natalie," he said, smiling like they were already friends. "I've heard you're the funniest person here." Natalie blinked, then laughed. "Funny or unprofessional, depends on who you ask." "Both are good," Chase replied easily. "Keeps things interesting." And just like that, an idea slithered into her mind. A reckless, dangerous idea. She started leaning into Chase's sunshine, laughing louder at his jokes, smiling brighter when he appeared, accepting his coffee deliveries with a thank you that was just a little too sweet. She wasn't flirting, not really, but she was performing, and her audience wasn't Chase, it was Owen. By Wednesday, she had proof it was working. At lunch in the cafeteria, she sat across from Chase, laughing at his ridiculous surfing stories when she felt it, that hot, sharp gaze on her back. She turned slightly, and there was Owen, 3 tables away, jaw tight, fingers clenched around his fork like it was an enemy. Good, she thought savagely. Let him feel something. By Thursday, the tension snapped. The weekly team meeting was already tense, everyone squeezed into the glass-walled conference room. Chase was presenting, eager and nervous, but his report was flawless. Natalie knew she had helped him refine every word. Then Owen cut in, voice cold as steel. "This report is incomplete." Chase faltered. "Sir, I reviewed the data 3 times. The methodology is sloppy. The conclusions are unfounded. Next time, focus less on social distractions and more on the work." The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Everyone froze, eyes darting between the CEO and the intern, and everyone knew what social distractions meant. Natalie's blood boiled. Chase had done nothing wrong. Owen was just using him as a weapon. "With all due respect, Mr. Carter," Natalie said, voice tight but steady, "the report is solid. I helped him review it." Every head turned toward her. Owen's eyes locked on hers, blazing with a fury that was more personal than professional. "Meeting adjourned," he snapped. "Everyone out, except you, Miss Ross." The room emptied in a rush, whispers trailing behind. Chase gave her a confused, apologetic look before slipping out. The glass doors clicked shut. Now it was just them, the storm and the spark. "What exactly are you doing?" Owen demanded, stepping closer. Natalie shot to her feet, refusing to cower. "Working, like any other employee." "Don't play games with me." "Oh, so I'm Natalie again?" she fired back. "Funny, last week I was Miss Ross. Which is it this time, Owen?" "You know exactly what I mean." His voice was low, dangerous, but his eyes burned with something she couldn't name. "Actually, I don't. You told me nothing happened in Portland, that it was an inconvenience. So why do you care who I have lunch with?" He took a step closer, the air between them crackling. "Because—" He stopped, breathing hard, fists clenched at his sides. "Because what, Owen?" She leaned closer, taunting. "Because Chase makes me laugh? Because he brings me coffee? Because he doesn't treat me like I'm a mistake? You're doing this just to get a reaction out of me." "Maybe," she snapped. "Or maybe I'm just moving on. He's handsome, fun, and he treats me like I matter. Imagine that." Owen's chest rose and fell sharply. His control, usually so impenetrable, was unraveling. You have no idea what you're talking about. Then explain it to me. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. You're impossible, Owen Carter. She turned toward the door, but he grabbed her arm. Natalie, wait. For what? So you can tell me again that nothing happened? No. His voice was raw now, stripped of its usual armor. So I can tell you you're driving me crazy. She froze, her pulse hammering in her ears. What? You heard me. His eyes blazed. You're in my head. Every second, every hour. I can't stop thinking about you. Then why? Her voice broke. Why push me away? Because it's complicated. There's that word again, she whispered bitterly. Complicated. Always complicated. Natalie. And then, like something inside him finally snapped, Owen pulled her close. His mouth crashed against hers in a kiss that was nothing like she expected. Not tentative, not careful. It was fire and fury, anger and longing, weeks of tension igniting all at once. Natalie gasped, then melted, matching his intensity with her own. It was messy, desperate, reckless, and perfect. When they broke apart, breathless, his forehead pressed to hers, his voice was a whisper. Don't flirt with anyone else. Ever. Except me. She stared at him, stunned. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning. And yet, for the first time since that cursed voice note, she wasn't afraid. She was in the middle of something dangerous, thrilling, maybe catastrophic, and she couldn't wait to see where it went. The office never stayed quiet for long, especially when gossip had fuel. By Monday morning, Natalie could feel the change in the air before she even walked through the doors. Conversations cut off when she passed, laughter died into awkward silence, and when she caught Jessica staring at her, like she'd grown an extra head, Natalie's stomach sank. It didn't take long to find out why. Sarah from HR appeared at her desk, phone in hand, face somewhere between apologetic and gleeful. You need to see this. Natalie braced herself. On the glowing screen was a blurry but unmistakable photo, her and Owen in the conference room, locked in a kiss that looked anything but professional. His hand tangled in her hair, her body pressed against him. It wasn't corporate, it was combustible. Her blood went cold. Where did you get this? Natalie whispered. It's already in the company WhatsApp group. Natalie's throat tightened. The entire office has seen this? Sarah nodded grimly. And probably half the industry by lunch. Her phone buzzed with notifications, laughing emojis, wide-eyed gifs, a message from Amanda in administration that read, Knew it. Nobody's that funny without a motive. Natalie felt the world tilt. Every pair of eyes in the office seemed to weigh on her, some with curiosity, some with envy, and a few with open disdain. Jessica leaned over. For the record, you two make a disgustingly attractive couple. Natalie's head snapped around. Jessica! What? It's true. You've got that enemies to lovers energy. The internet would eat it up. I'm not living in a rom-com, Natalie hissed, but her cheeks burned. The morning was a battlefield, snide comments about fast-track promotions, sarcastic offers of staplers approved by the CEO, and Amanda's pointed, some of us work for our success. Natalie stopped dead at Amanda's desk, forcing a sugar-sweet smile. Let me guess, Amanda, you're upset because Owen never looked at you twice? Don't worry, I'll send you tips on how to be funny. Might help. Amanda flushed scarlet. Jessica muttered under her breath. Savage. By noon, Natalie was emotionally wrung out. She was shoving files into her bag when the air shifted. Owen. He strolled through the office with his usual calm, nodding at employees, commanding the room. Except now, every glance carried a silent question. Was it true? Was it real? When he reached her desk, the entire floor went still. Natalie, he said evenly, holding out a hand. Shall we have lunch? Natalie froze. The world tilted again. Lunch? Yes, you do eat, don't you? Every eye in the office was on them. She could feel the whispers waiting to explode. Her instinct screamed to say no, to avoid making the spectacle worse. But then she saw his expression, calm on the surface, steel underneath. He wasn't asking, he was daring. With her heart hammering, Natalie slipped her hand into his. The collective inhale of the office followed them all the way to the elevator. As soon as the doors closed, she spun on him. You saw the photo. I did. His voice was smooth, controlled. And you're not worried? At all? No. She gaped at him. People are saying I slept my way into job security, that I'm getting special treatment. He finally turned to face her, eyes sharp. Do you? Her jaw dropped. Do I what? Have ulterior motives? She stared at him, insulted and hurt. Of course not. Then why do you care what they say? Because this is my career, Owen. I've worked my ass off to be taken seriously, and now... He cut her off with a kiss. Quick, scorching, reckless. Her breath caught. Owen, she hissed, pushing him back. What are you doing? Someone could... Let them, he said simply, restarting the elevator. There's no going back now, and I don't want there to be. Lunch was no safer. He deliberately chose the center table in the cafeteria, ignoring the stairs. When Natalie tried to shrink into her seat, he gently straightened her posture. Don't hide, he murmured. You did nothing wrong. I feel like I did, she admitted softly. Why? Because, she hesitated. Because I don't know if you're doing this because you want to, or because you feel obligated. That cracked something in his mask. He leaned in, voice low but firm. Natalie, I was confused, scared, but I'm done running. She blinked at him, pulse skipping. Scared of what? His jaw clenched. Of you, of what I feel for you. The cafeteria around them dissolved. For one breathless moment, it was just them, caught in a current neither of them could escape. And that was when Natalie realized, whatever this was, it wasn't just going to burn quietly, it was going to explode. The weeks that followed were a strange kind of paradise wrapped in barbed wire. On the surface, everything between Owen and Natalie was real. Secret rooftop lunches, stolen smiles across the boardroom, notes slipped into files. For the first time, Owen looked less like a fortress and more like a man daring to live. And for the first time, Natalie let herself believe in something reckless. But even paradise has cracks. She noticed them in quiet moments. When she asked about his past, he'd changed the subject. When she laughed too loudly at Chase's jokes, his jaw tightened. When she woke up in his arms, she sometimes caught a shadow flicker across his face before he kissed it away. The shadow had a name. She discovered it by accident. Owen had asked her to grab a file from his office while he was in a board meeting. She opened the drawer and found it. Not the file, but a letter, folded and frayed, tucked beneath contracts. She shouldn't have read it. She told herself that even as her eyes devoured the words. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to understand. What we had was real, and it can be again. Please. Love, Sarah. Natalie's chest went hollow. Sarah. The name alone dripped intimacy. This wasn't just some fling from a decade ago. This was unfinished. When Owen he turned, she was standing stiffly by his desk. He noticed the drawer open, the letter no longer perfectly aligned. His eyes darkened. Did you find the documents? Her voice came out sharper than intended. Yes, I found them. But it wasn't the truth. What she'd found was the first crack in everything she thought they were building. That night at dinner, she couldn't hold it in anymore. The candlelight between them flickered as she dropped the question like a grenade. Who is Sarah? The silence was deafening. Owen's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Slowly, he set it down. Where did you hear that name? I didn't hear it. I read it. Her voice trembled but didn't break. The letter in your drawer. His eyes closed for a moment, the mask slipping. You went through my things. I was looking for the file you asked me to get. Don't turn this into an attack on me. Who is she, Owen? He hesitated too long. Natalie's nails dug into her palms. Sarah, he said finally, voice flat, was my fiancée. The word felt like a knife. Was, past tense, but the letter was written in the present. What happened? She demanded. We broke up, 2 weeks before the wedding. His gaze hardened. She cheated, with my best friend. Natalie's anger faltered, replaced by raw empathy. Owen, he cut her off. Don't. It was years ago, but I don't forgive. I don't forget. Her voice softened. And now she's writing to you again? Yes, he admitted. She wants forgiveness. Another chance. And what do you want? That hesitation again, the one that hollowed her chest. I want... He trailed off, then shook his head. It doesn't matter. She's nothing to me now. But the seed of doubt was already planted. In the days that followed, Owen grew distant, colder in meetings, harder to read at home. The man who had laughed during an ice cube war was disappearing again behind walls of marble and steel, and Natalie, carrying their fragile, messy, exhilarating secret, began to feel like a guest in her own story. Then came the email. She hadn't meant to snoop. His laptop pinged while she was folding baby clothes in his apartment. The subject line burned into her eyes before she could stop herself. Final merger proposal. Personnel matters. Against her better judgment, she clicked. Owen, as discussed, the merger is practically finalized. Only one obstacle remains, the optics of your relationship with Miss Ross. Our PR team strongly recommends her removal from Apex before the announcement. We've prepared a generous compensation package for her discreet exit, awaiting your confirmation. Natalie's world shattered. By the time Owen came home, she was waiting with the laptop open on the table. Her suitcase was half-packed in the corner. "Were you going to tell me?" she asked, voice sharp with restrained fury. Owen froze. His eyes darted to the screen, then back to her. "Natalie, I can explain." "Explain what? That you were negotiating my exit like I'm a liability?" Her voice cracked. "Was I just disposable to you? Again?" "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You'll burn the world for a deal, but when it comes to me, I'm just another variable to manage." His control slipped, desperation seeping in. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" She laughed bitterly. "By making decisions about my life without me? By selling me off like part of the contract?" The dam broke. Tears blurred her vision. "I thought you'd changed, Owen. I thought you were different with me. But you're still the same man. Controlling, calculating, incapable of trust." She shoved past him, dragging her suitcase. He reached for her arm, but she yanked it free. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't touch me. Not if it's just to keep me quiet." And she walked out, leaving him standing in his immaculate apartment, surrounded by silence heavier than any boardroom. For the first time in years, Owen Carter, unshakable CEO, ruthless strategist, was utterly powerless. And Natalie Ross, quicksilver wit with too many bruises and too much heart, was done being anyone's casualty. But what neither of them knew, what neither of them could see yet, was that this wasn't the end. It was the cliff before the real drop. Because the story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the kind of love that either destroys you or remakes you entirely, and the next move would decide everything. And the